Quebec is a unique and vibrant place that's chock full of outdoor adventure and cultural charm. On the southern end of the province, along the Ottawa River, the Outaouais region is full of countless adventures to be had. Here, you'll find an incredible network of lakes, rivers, and quaint villages, along with one of the best whitewater runs on the planet. Further north, bordering the St. Lawrence River, the Charlevoix region of Quebec boasts some of the most dramatic landscapes to be found east of the Rockies. It is a wild and wonderful place that features a variety of world-class backcountry trails, breathtaking mountain trails, thundering whitewater, and early season snowstorms. This week on Epic Trails, we're exploring Charlevoix and Outaouais.
I'm Eric Hansen. When I see a trail, I see more than a path from point A to point B. A good trail is the ultimate opportunity to explore, to discover new landscapes, and to challenge myself. When I don't have a pack on my back, I'm thinking about my next big adventure, because my mission is simple. My mission is to discover the world's most epic trails.
Although Charlevoix shares the small, charming towns and relaxed country life that's found throughout the province of Quebec, I've heard the region boast some of the most dramatic countryside in eastern North America. With the fall colors popping and a cool, wintry chill in the air, I'm kicking things off with the backcountry adventure.
I'm setting off for an overnight. Going to be climbing to the top of Monte Morio. And it's one of the popular summits to do around here. I'm dressed all bundled up. It's been super cold. The temperature has been plummeting over the last few days. And there's actually supposed to be maybe even snow in the forecast. And this is really the first bit of adventure I've been able to get out and do here in the Charlevoix region. And so I'm definitely looking forward to getting up to the summit, posting up at the top and seeing what we can see. Definitely looks slippery. Damn. I think I'm lost. Not really sure which way to go. Rope. Thank you for the assistance. It has officially started snowing on us. I am very hopeful that it is just a passing cell. I'm hoping it'll just move on through and that we'll still get a great sunset. But I'm definitely concerned that we might be getting an early snowstorm here in Charlevoix. We'll see. So just looking for a place to put a tent or two. Been a bit of an adventure today. As you can tell, it's snowing pretty heavily. I guess fall is setting in here in Canada. Cheers, guys. It's been fun. Well, last night was pretty rough with the weather. The winds were violent and it was cold. But you know what? Getting to wake up on top of a mountain like this and see the sunrise over a fresh dusting of snow, this is a damn good payoff.
Last night's snow was just a glimpse of the things to come in the wintry months ahead. But with the snow gone before I even get down the mountain, I'm surprised to hear there's some dog mushing to be done in the area. So I meet up with Alex Levin, who has used a little creativity to make dog mushing a year-round activity in the Charlevoix region.
We moved here in Baie-Saint-Paul 2 years ago because much more activity, much more tourists, so much more work for them. And since they are working dogs, if you can make them work all year long, they're happy.
Yeah.
There's some rest moments, but the more they work, the more they find the real essence of their identity, and which is work.
Yeah.
And also hug.
I love. Hey there, pretty lady. I just met up with Alex, and he runs a dog mushing company. Basically, he has a kennel full of lots of huskies and beautiful dogs. And today we are going out. It's not winter yet, but it's coming. We're gonna head out and actually get on the trail and roll around on these as we're being pulled by these mushing dogs. So it's gonna be a fun time. I've never done this before. That's it's a long way from anything I've ever done. So I just got introduced to a bunch of the dogs and to Alex, and we're going to be heading out shortly and actually getting the dogs leashed up and on their harnesses, and we're going to have a fun day of learning how to mush.
Gino!
Where's my dog?
The bat! Come on, Gino! Aha, Gino! Where Gino? Where Gino? Oh, Gino! Ah, Gino! Gino!
So you want me to give you like 3 seconds once you go?
No,
Just go right with you.
just go right with me.
Okay.
Allez, Sky! Hopla! Hopla!
All
Allez.
right, Gino, here we go, baby. Yeah, let's boogie. Good job, Gino. Good job, Gino. Run like the wind, Gino. Yoo-hoo! Woo! Yee-hee! Woo-hoo! Run, Gino. So Alex and I just ran with the dogs for about 10 kilometers as they were pulling the scooters. They basically just did 10 kilometers like it was nothing. It was such a wild experience. I loved it. Just running behind the dogs. It's like you're working as you are working as a team, and just flowing with the dogs. Sometimes they want to go in the front. Sometimes they want to go in the back. It was really cool. I felt like I got to bond a bit with Gino. So they're working dogs. They're not pets, and that was just seeing them in their environment, seeing the dogs go do their thing. I loved it. Yeah, I think Gino was thirsty. She kept trying to like grab some water off the road. It was crazy. She'd be like running and coming across a puddle and just scooping it up as we were running. That was such a cool experience. Just being on there, like there's no motors or anything. It's just silence. You just hear the dogs panting and just flying out there.
We were prepared, not cold.
Yeah, no, it's perfect.
Ready for it.
Perfect environment.
The dogs are not even tired.
Yeah, I think they're ready for the winter season.
Yeah.
After a wild and fluffy day with my new best friend Gino, I'm looking forward to exploring more of the rugged and beautiful landscape that Charlevoix is known for. So I'm meeting up with Lawrence Besson, a local backpacker who knows the trails here as well as anyone.
So we're currently on the Acropole des Draveurs Trail
Oh yeah?
in the Haute Gorge de la Rivière Malbaie National Park in the Charlevoix region. And as you may have noticed, this is a pretty steep trail.
Yeah, it's
but
going up.
The view at the top will be a great reward for all the effort.
So it'll be worth it.
Oh yes, definitely.
Perfect.
Wait for it.
Although there are a number of trails in the park to choose from, the Acropole des Draveurs trail that we're on is the most physically challenging because it involves hiking up more than 2,500 vertical feet. In fact, this park is known for having some of the highest rock walls east of the Rockies.
Just started getting into the snow. It's been very cold. The temperature's been dropping. Looky here, beautiful winter wonderland ahead of us.
We're here.
We're here?
Yay!
Wow.
So
This is a hell of a viewpoint.
yeah, it was worth it.
Yeah, this is amazing up here. That is pretty vertical.
So yeah, that's where we were just before.
We have come up a long way.
Yeah.
This is crazy. I don't think, I know that I, coming into this, didn't know how vertical Quebec might be, but there's actually a lot of big upended rock here. This is spectacular. Yeah, thanks for bringing me here. This is so cool.
Yeah, thank you for coming, for
Spectacular
joining
place.
me.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I wasn't expecting to encounter these kinds of dramatic landscapes in Quebec.
Yeah.
But surprises are one of the most beautiful things about travel. As I stand on top of the Acropole des Draveurs Trail, I'm humbled and inspired by the beauty, and thankful for the opportunity to discover the magic of Quebec's Charlevoix region. Only a few hours from Montreal, and minutes from Canada's capital city of Ottawa, the Outaouais region of Quebec is an outdoor playground connected by a wide variety of charming small towns. It's the kind of place you can visit without a singular purpose, because there's so much to do and explore in the area. And that includes the unbelievable bakeries, which I found to be a perfect place to hang out while waiting for the rain to pass and the cool fall temperatures to rise. Now, with a belly full of coffee and more than a few sugar pies, it's time to start exploring.
So I'm in the Canuck Nature Area. It's 65,000 acres of land that is set aside as conservation land. There's also an opportunity to spend the night in these private chalets on the lake where I got to be in a place called Rough Cabin, which was anything but rough. It was actually quite plush. And came to this mountaintop where there's this really cool old lookout cabin. Yeah, this is just a really cool place to finally get up above everything. Everything's so dense with the forest in general. It's hard to get some of these views.
That was a cool experience. It's cold up there. It's really windy. And you're pretty exposed and everything's just kind of shaking a little bit. But it's a really unique vantage point. So cool up there.
Chilled from the climb to the lookout, and with the weather deteriorating, I decided to cut my hike short and explore the inside of a barrel sauna instead. A little random? Sure. But when someone offers you the opportunity to enjoy a private sauna that floats on a lake, you don't pass it up. Of course, there is one requirement though. If you're gonna sauna by a lake, no matter how chilly it is outside, you've gotta go for a dip. Water is a way of life in Quebec, and canoeing in particular has played an enormous role in the Outaouais region. It was a fundamental means of transportation for the land's indigenous population, and a key vehicle for trade. Nowadays, canoeing opens up an unbelievable number of opportunities for adventure along the countless rivers and lakes. And so, if you don't go canoeing in Quebec, did you really even go there? On this cold and windy fall day, my canoeing mission is to reach a small island with a backcountry yurt. I can't lie, today's conditions were a bit challenging for someone with my limited experience, and paddling a canoe solo is making it that much tougher. The progress is slow, but fortunately, all the little islands provide cover from the waves and the wind. At last, worn out and a little beat down, I find my home for the night.
Today's been kind of a long and a bit rough of a day. Super windy, rainy all day. Managing the canoe out in the water was really actually quite challenging. I don't have a ton of experience at it, so it's all pretty new. So I felt like I was just swirling around in the wind, and as the currents are pushing you around, it was hard. Got in later than I expected to the yurt. It's pretty much dark now. Was able to pull ashore just right before the sun was going down. And with all the clouds and the rain, it's just really dark out. So thankful for this space, thankful for this little wood stove and for the heat that this is putting off. Eager for cooking a little food up over this and getting some sleep here. Well, I'm drinking in the last bit of warmth today because I'm going to be freezing cold all day. I just met up with some friends of mine who actually are in the area here. I'm at Momentum Rafting, and we're going to be spending the day on the Ottawa River, which is one of the world-class rivers. Big white water. It's going to be exciting and spicy. Might flip a boat. Going to go through some big rapids, and I'm super excited about it. But it's late fall, and today is ice cold, so it's going to be a challenge for sure. Looking forward to it.
So Rafting Momentum is based on the Pontiac region, the Ottawa region in Quebec province, in the little village of Bryson. The Momentum Rafting is all about rafting on the Ottawa River. We offer the full day of rafting with 2 meals and camping. Also, it's all included in the package.
Definitely ready for this. I'm very excited to go rafting. I've done a fair bit of rafting in the Grand Canyon, but outside of that, not a ton of experience. This should be fun. The main concern for me today is how cold it is. It's gonna be my personal goal to make sure that Sierra goes in the water as much as possible. An old dear friend of mine who happens to be in the area that I'm linking up with to go rafting with, so it should be fun. Got a good old wall of water straight to the face. You know, classic whitewater stuff. It's the best being in the front of the boat. You get to see everything. You also take the brunt of the water in the cold. Feeling pretty good.
One of the cool things about the Ottawa River is that there's so many places where we can surf. As we saw today, the boat went very high from the end of the boat, and this is all highlights and people that like to live those moments. We surf there. Sometimes we can get surf that lasts for 30 seconds, and they're all easy to enter and easy to go back. So the Ottawa River is very special about those surfing places.
It's one of those times where sometimes you gotta clock into work, you know? No, it was cold. It's actually really exhilarating. You actually get underwater, you feel that you're being moved along. So it's a cool experience. But this water, it's cold. Not like summer.
The Ottawa River, what is so enjoyable about it also is that yeah, you got the 2 channels, but the rivers change during all year, and there's so many waves and rapids, and all those got different calibers depending on the water level. And since on the Ottawa River you always have water, and so we like the lower level and we love also the high level, so there's always a great option on the Ottawa River.
You've been on this river for how long?
10 years?
10 years.
Yeah.
And you don't have any stories?
Not that are appropriate for television.
If you can't tell from the smile that's plastered on my face, the Ottawa River is as wild as promised. And not only does it mark the end of my trip in the Outaouais region, but it ends my month of adventures here in Quebec. Truth be told, I can't think of a better send-off. The color, the culture, and the adventure. It's been one hell of a ride.
Well guys, that's it. That's the end of the show. We finished our rafting just now. As you can tell, it's damn dark out. And it's been a full-on day. We've been pushing it to the 11th hour here. I fly home tomorrow. It's been an amazing shoot. But yeah, this was an experience. Some awesome whitewater here on the Ottawa. It's world class. This was really low water. And I think I might have to come back when the water's higher and some of those wave trains are surging even more. Thanks so much. See you later. I'm done.
The northern extremity of British Columbia's Sunshine Coast. It marks the end of the North American coastal highway system and the gateway to world-famous islands and waterways. A volcanic mountain range, an ancient eruption that molded the landscape here.
Would not surprise any volcanologist if Mount Meager erupted again.
A ferry network providing transportation and a supply line to remote coastal communities.
It's a big coastline in British Columbia, and obviously you can't have roadways everywhere.
And a rare World War II fortification on the waters of Johnston Strait.
The war became very real to people.
Now, we reveal the coastlines like never before, unlocking the secrets of our maritime past, present, and future. Canada, over the edge. Heading northwest along the British Columbia coast, the waters of Malaspina Strait separate Texada Island from the city of Powell River. Powell River is home to just 13,000 people and marks the last major settlement along the Sunshine Coast. The city is divided into sections, including Westview at the southern end, and the historic district, built around the town's pulp and paper mill. On the waterfront, 10 concrete ships serve as a breakwater for the mill's log storage pond. They are rare World War I and II vessels, the only concrete ships of the era known to be afloat today. The ships are anchored and chained together 150 feet below the surface, giving Powell River the distinction of having the largest floating hulk breakwater in the world. On shore, Powell River holds other unique distinctions.
We're in Powell River. We're at the top of Highway 101, which is the longest paved highway in the world. It ends in Chile, 5,000 some odd miles south of here. We're on the mainland of BC, but you can only get to us by air or by boat. So we're pretty isolated, pretty remote, but we're still connected to the mainland.
The city was built around its mill, first operated in 1912. By 1960, it was considered the largest pulp and paper mill in the world.
When the first roll of paper came off the machines, there were probably about 600 guys working here. It didn't really grow to its maximum until 1981. At that time, there were over 2,900 head of household jobs.
Along with the mill, operators invested in the town itself, building neighborhoods of sturdy, comfortable houses for the mill's workforce.
This town was built to last, and it was built with attention to the dignity of the workers. Everybody had a front veranda from which to socialize with the passing neighbors. Everybody had a backyard. All the deliveries were made from the lane in the back to maintain that bit of gentility. It was a remarkable experiment, and it was something that the owners obviously invested their whole intention in.
Since the 1980s, Powell River's pulp and paper industry has seen a decline, resulting in changing times for this small coastal city.
In 1983, they downsized 25%, and every year we've lost more jobs, more head of household jobs, more beginner jobs, opportunities for our young people, to the point where we're down to about 420 head of household jobs. Those are all highly skilled paper-making jobs. Ever since it started downsizing and it became apparent that it wasn't going to bounce back, of course the obvious solutions to economic diversification were to explore ecotourism, adventure tourism, that sort of thing, and that has grown enormously. We have some world-class destinations here, including some groomed rock faces for the climbers, a lot of kayaking, a lot of sailing. We realize, too, that there is an emerging demand for heritage and cultural tourism, and Powell River has been designated a cultural capital of Canada.
In 1995, the unique past of Powell River was recognized. The town site was named a National Historic District of Canada.
At the time that we were designated, there were only 6 in all of Canada. And we were designated because we were an excellent example of an early 20th century planned company town, and because of this high rate of survival of our buildings, both residential and commercial. Some of the really awesome buildings here are, well, one of them was right here behind me. It's Dwight Hall. It was built in 1927, and it was the grand old lady of the coast. It has a beautiful sprung wood dance floor. Every event, every significant event in this town for 80, 90 years has taken place in Dwight Hall, whether it's a Christmas concert or a beauty pageant or a ballet recital or a welcoming home to the veterans with all the bunting hanging from the ceiling. Gorgeous building, and we're so proud of it. The other major building in terms of commercial or institutional buildings that have survived is the Patricia Theatre. It was built in September 1913. A gorgeous little atmospheric theater with French velvet main drapes and murals on the walls and Haywood Wakefield seats sent all the way out from New York by rail and steamship. And it is now the oldest continuously operating movie theater company in Canada, 99 years old.
Beyond Powell River and Texada Island opposite, the waters widen and Malaspina Strait becomes Georgia Strait. tiny lakes and rolling hills lie just inland, leading to the peaks of the Coast Mountain Range beyond. Offshore, scenic islands line the horizon on this remote waterway. Copeland Islands Marine Provincial Park measures 180 hectares of islands, inlets, and jagged rocks, a popular destination for recreational boaters. Savory Island is further offshore. It is a narrow 7.5 kilometer sliver of land, barely a kilometer wide. The exposed waters of Georgia Strait continue to erode the island's shoreline. Back on shore, we reveal North America's end of the road and explore one of the world's most popular recreational boating destinations. From Savory Island east to the British Columbia mainland, the community of Lund lies below. It is named after Lund, Sweden, the hometown for the region's first European settlers. It lies just 20 kilometers north of Powell River and officially marks North America's end of the road. Coastal travel beyond Lund goes by sea or sky. Sea travel is part of everyday life in British Columbia, with more than 20 million passengers relying on the province's ferry system each year.
BC Ferry started out in 1960 as a two-ship operation between Swartz Bay and Tawasin, so essentially between Victoria and Vancouver, and grew from that to what it is today, which is 35 ships, 47 terminals, 4,500 employees, and 185,000 sailings per year. So it's, by any measurement, one of the largest and most complex ferry systems in the world.
It is a sophisticated operation, coordinated out of BC Ferry's Operations Security Center in downtown Victoria.
So we're in our Operations Security Center, which is the heart of BC Ferries. We have two people working in the center at all times. And essentially, it monitors everything that happens at BC Ferries on a real-time basis. We have interaction with the Coast Guard as well as all the local police. We get real-time weather from Environment Canada, so we got everything that we need here to run a world-class ferry system. We essentially provide, I would call, three types of service. We provide our mainland service routes, which are the big ships going back and forth between Vancouver Island and the mainland. We provide the northern service, which is basically mini cruise type vessels traveling up and down the coast in northern BC. And then we have our small island ferries, the open car deck ferries that serve the Gulf Islands.
Considering British Columbia's unique geography, the operation run by Mike Corrigan and his team of more than 4,000 employees are essential for the daily life of thousands along this coast.
It's a big coastline in British Columbia, and obviously you can't have roadways everywhere, so there are some fairly significant landlocked communities on the west coast, kind of in between mountains and the ocean, that the only way that they can get service, people can get service into those communities is through our ferry system. So it's a pretty integral part of the day-to-day lives of those people. We get some pretty extreme weather, and in those situations we have to delay sailings, and sometimes we have to delay them for a couple of days until it's safe to sail. People on the north coast are pretty used to that type of weather, and in fact are understanding when we can't sail. There's times when they don't want to be on the vessels either and shouldn't be on the vessels, but at the end of the day we get the products and the services to where they need to get. It just may take a couple extra days to get there.
Northwest of the community of Lund, the inland waterways of British Columbia's west coast are revealed. Desolation Sound Marine Provincial Park is set along 60 kilometers of spectacular shoreline. The park was created in 1973, nearly 200 years after Captain George Vancouver first mapped the Sound, naming it for its sparsely populated remote location. Today, the Sound lives up to its name, far from roads and civilization. It is set at the confluence of the Malaspina Inlet and Homefray Channel, a collection of islands, bays, and hidden coves. The waters of Desolation Sound measure nearly 85 square kilometers. It is one of the world's top recreational boating destinations, a sought-after anchorage for yachters, featuring calm waters surrounded by mountains and fjords. Next, we explore inland, high above BC's awe-inspiring inlets and one of Canada's most famous volcanoes. British Columbia's inland marine corridors are one of the West Coast's hidden treasures. To the north, beyond Desolation Sound, Home Freight Channel marks the next leg of this journey inland. It is 25 kilometers of pristine waterway, flanked to the west by East Redonda Island and Mount Addenbroke, rising 1,500 meters above the sea. The island is also the site of an ecological reserve, preserving the region's unique forest ecosystems. On the opposite shoreline, Home Freight Channel is lined by steep granite faces with sparse vegetation. These rugged columns of rock lead to the confluence of three great waterways: Home Freight Channel, Price Channel, and one of British Columbia's principal inland waterways, Toba Inlet. Toba Inlet is a deep fjord extending 35 kilometers inland, surrounded by the rising peaks of the Coast Mountain Range. The waters here are fed by glaciers, with melting glacial waters giving the inlet a magical hint of emerald green. It is a remote, uninhabited region, yet a human presence is still felt. Brem Bay, one of BC's many logging camps, operates, using the sheltered waters to store logs, awaiting transport by barge and ship to mills in the south. Further inland, we explore the peaks of the Coast Mountain Range in formidable Clendening Provincial Park. This remote protected landscape measures more than 30,000 hectares. It is a varied topography with forests, meadows, valleys, and soaring ice-capped peaks. And near the northeast boundary of the park lies one of Canada's most famous volcanoes.
Most people are well aware of the Cascade volcanoes in the United States. You know, that's Mount St. Helens, Mount Hood, Mount Adams. And a lot of people forget that the Cascade volcanoes come up into Canada and extend several hundred kilometers north of Vancouver. They often get referred to as the Garibaldi volcanic belt.
Mount Meagher rises more than 2,600 meters. Dr. Kelly Russell considers the mountain and the surrounding volcanic belt to be a geological wonder.
When we're driving the Sea to Sky Highway from Vancouver north, say up to Whistler or up to Pemberton, we're actually driving through a mass of granitic rocks. And most of the BC coast, in this part of British Columbia anyway, is made up of granitic rocks. But if you cast your eyes up to the skyline, you'll actually see a different set of rocks. They're very jagged looking things that sort of cap the rounded granite rocks. And they're jagged and looking fairly rugged, mainly because they're suffering high degrees of erosion and mass wasting. So they're sort of volcanoes falling apart.
The belt is 4 million years old, and it is the site of Canada's largest volcanic eruption in the last 10,000 years.
We've had historic eruptions, and probably the most exciting eruption that we've had in historic times is the one at Mount Meagher. Mount Meagher had an explosive eruption 2,360 years before present. That eruption was explosive, and those are the most exciting ones in volcanology. And it's the youngest explosive eruption in Canadian history. And that eruption would have produced an eruption column about 15 to 18 kilometers high, dispersing ash north and west from the volcano. And some of that ash actually got all the way out to Jasper, Alberta. So that gives you an idea of the intensity of that eruption and the duration.
The eruption saw lava hurled to the river below. Some of it hardened, forming a dam. The Lillooet River was backed up for more than a year until it exploded in a massive deluge. Evidence of that event still exists today.
Well, this is, I think, a very beautiful rock. And what is this? You can see these black bits in here. These are pieces of the lava, and then it's got a gray matrix. Well, those are just finer bits of the lava. This is one of the lava avalanche deposits that makes that dam in the Lillooet River Valley. And again, it shows us that, it was fragmented to produce all these particles. It accumulated in the Lillooet River Valley, and it was hot enough that the particles welded themselves and stuck themselves back together to make basically a coherent rock. And that's why that dam was so efficient at blocking the Lillooet drainage.
Mount Meager has sat silent for more than 2,000 years. Could it erupt again?
It's entirely plausible that we could have another similar eruption in the Garibaldi volcanic belts. Would not surprise any volcanologist if Mount Meager erupted again. So at Mount Meager, if it erupted in its present location again in exactly the same style, it'd be a minor inconvenience to us because it's so far removed from important infrastructure. We could have a similar style eruption taking place at Mount Cayley or Garibaldi, and that's close enough to things we value that there would be substantially more worry. And that's where our federal scientists would come in and help guide us through a volcanic crisis such as that.
Heading west, we return to the coast, exploring BC's Butte Inlet, and we soar high above this region's incredible remote island chains. The peaks just inland from British Columbia's Pacific coastline are a remarkable natural gem. Heading cross-country, we approach another of the province's scenic inland waterways. Gastineau Peak lies just inland. It is a rugged snow-capped rock face, a signature feature of the region. This area is traditional territory of the Klahoose and Homalco First Nations, groups that continue to enjoy a cultural bond with the landscape here. A legacy dating back thousands of years. Ramsay Arm lies far below. It is a short inlet leading to what many consider to be one of the most spectacular fjords in the world, Butte Inlet. Butte Inlet is longer and wider than Toba Inlet, leading 75 kilometers inland. It is surrounded by coastal mountains, rising more than 3,000 meters. Further inland, the inlet is surrounded by glaciers and the incredible Hamathko ice field. It is one of the largest ice fields south of the Arctic Circle, covering more than 2,000 square kilometers. Toba Inlet is a destination for photographers, hikers, and popular for recreational fishing and boating. Back at the mouth of the inlet, the Discovery Islands line the horizon. They are located in the body of water known as Discovery Passage, separating Vancouver Island from the mainland. The larger islands connect to Vancouver Island via ferry. The others are only accessible by boat or by plane. To the south, a narrow passageway leads between Sonora Island and Morel Island. It is known as Hole in the Wall, famous for powerful tidal currents that can make marine navigation treacherous. Finally, Octopus Island's Provincial Park is a last stop, marking a return to the waters of Georgia Strait. It is a spectacular, serene environment surrounded by unbelievable landscape. Next, we explore the coastlines of Cortes Island and reveal a rare World War II defense fortification set in the heart of Johnston Strait. North of British Columbia's Sunshine Coast, the shoreline is a remote wonder. Southeast of Octopus Marine Provincial Park, the waters of Georgia Strait stretch 240 kilometers south, separating BC's mainland from Vancouver Island. At the northern extremity of the strait, Cortes Island measures 130 square kilometers. It is west of Desolation Sound, set between the communities of Powell River on the mainland and Campbell River on Vancouver Island. It is connected by ferry to nearby Quadra Island. Cortes is traditional territory for many First Nations peoples, but its name is linked to 18th century Spanish exploration. On a 1793 voyage, the Spanish cartographer Valdez named the island in honor of Spanish conqueror Hernando Cortés. Heading north and to the west, beyond Georgia Strait and Discovery Passage, the waterway widens and becomes Johnston Strait. Johnston Strait is a major navigation route connecting Georgia Strait with Queen Charlotte Strait and the open waters of the Pacific beyond. It is sparsely populated, with no major towns or cities on either side, just small outposts like Kelsey Bay. And opposite Kelsey Bay sits York Island, a tiny outcrop of land that at first glance resembles any other island in the strait, but a closer look reveals a decades-old legacy of World War II preserved on the island.
York Island is in a very strategic spot. You would say that it's at the conjunction of Sunderland Channel and Johnston Strait. York Island is a very special little island simply for the reason that it was used as a site of a coastal defense fort during World War II. There are some really fantastic old fort buildings there, and we don't have a lot of that kind of old architecture here on the island. And these buildings are very substantial, and it was really quite a feat of engineering that they even ended up there at all. And York Island Fort is the only island fort that there is on the West Coast. Starting in about 1937, they sent engineers up from Victoria, and these were military engineers. And they reconnoitered the island and tried to establish where they wanted to put their various gun emplacements and where they would put their observation posts and barracks. One of the first things that they did was they built a very substantial wharf. You have to remember that on the coast in those years, water traffic was highly important as a means of communication and transportation. So having this wharf there was very, very critical to building the fort and getting their supplies and their troops in. We're standing in front of where the officers' quarters were, and these are stairs leading up to the officers' quarters. This was really a great discovery. It's like an archaeological find because nobody had seen these stairs since the war years. And this is what remains of the officers' quarters. It was once described as a very swank building with a stone fireplace and hardwood floors. And what was interesting about the construction was that when it had a roof, it had an eave that went all the way around, and the eave was designed so that it would catch water and drain it down into a cistern that was underneath the building. Now, there's no fresh water anywhere on York Island that can be tapped into. So they figured that this would be a good way of supplying everybody with water. So as we enter into this clearing, this is where we really get to the heart of what the fort was all about. As you can see, they brought the materials up 200 meters high, and they were actually transporting brick. This is one of the most interesting structures here. It's the observation post. And if you're out on the water on the west side of the island and look up, you can see it really clearly from the water. So this is where they were signaling to the ships that were stopping people in Johnston Strait, because the Navy was here with their examination ships, and they stopped everyone who was heading up or down the strait just to make sure that none of them were the enemy. And if all was okay, they would signal up to here and they would let them go by. The fort was under continual construction. They first started out with a couple of what they call the 4.7-inch guns that were actually from the First World War. These were naval guns, and they figured that they had the ability to shoot at any aircraft or any boats that might be coming by, that is, the enemy boats. Now, once Pearl Harbor was attacked, they decided that they needed to upgrade to 6-inch guns, and they built some very impressive gun emplacements at the top of the island. In addition to that, around the same time in December of '41, they put 3 substantial searchlight emplacements all around the island. In fact, people who lived across the way at Kelsey Bay said that they could read their newspapers by this light. It was so bright. And these lights were on 24 hours a day. The gun emplacements were built about halfway through the war in about 1942-43. Up until that time, they simply put camouflage tarps over top of the guns. So this is really quite a masterpiece of engineering. And as you can see here, they still have the storage area where they put the shells, and it's that you can read shell recess on there. Now I'm inside where the gun was actually situated. As you can see by the size of those bolts, it was quite a big piece of equipment. So this is where they stored all the ammo and all the explosives. The 6-inch guns that they used here, the naval guns, took shells about this big in diameter, and they actually used them in practice. So these guys would spend hours in here. A normal shift was 4 hours, and they would spell each other off. I've heard anywhere from 200 men to 700 men. One character that I interviewed said there was barely a square foot for each man, and certainly on a 130-acre island or 55-hectare island, it's pretty hard to picture them squeezing that many men in there. Well, the local people were really quite amused by what was going on. They were just astonished that so many ships and so much activity was happening around York Island, because it was a little island that had never been occupied. All of a sudden, they were inundated with a couple hundred soldiers and construction workers, and some local people were involved in the construction. And then all of a sudden, the war became very real to people.
From the city of Powell River with its industrial core, and preserved historic district, to the rock faces and winding shorelines of the province's inland waterways. To the islands of Georgia Strait and Johnston Strait. BC's Sunshine Coast and beyond is a maze of remote, untouched splendor. These shorelines capture stories of natural disaster, human cultural timelines. And reveal a bold maritime future. Here, on the edge of Canada.
Done.